Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 4 for this news report today, and I'm ready to go. Alright, so we have U.S. unemployment rate falls with more adults discouraged or quit looking. The economy added 146,000 jabs in November, up from 138,000 in October. I noticed that the mainstream media is touting that as a huge success and a reason to be optimistic about the future. Says the unemployment rate fell to 7.7%, largely because 542,000 additional adults chose not to look for work. It actually says it's the worst recovery since the Great Depression. 73% of the new jobs created in the last 5 months were in government. 73% of new civilian jobs created in the U.S. over the last 5 months were in government, according to official data published by the Bureau of Labor. Then from good jobs to bad jobs to no jobs, the tragic downfall of the American worker. Says there was a time in America when virtually anyone that wanted a job could go out and get one, and the U.S. boasts the largest and most prosperous middle class in history of the world. Sadly, those days are long gone, as back in 1969, 95% of all men between the ages of 25 and 54 had a job, but now there are millions of Americans in their prime working years that cannot find work. It says millions of others are working for low-wage jobs or part-time jobs because this is all they can get. Good example is what the writer says the other day. Went to a retail store, got in conversation with a lady that was checking him out. Says that a cashier, she said that she had been working professional jobs all her life and that she had taken this job to tide her over as she searched for a new job, but she's now been there for 2 years with no end in sight. But this is the new reality. Good paying manufacturing and professional jobs are being replaced by low paying service jobs. Of course, the new bill, health insurance bill that forces you to basically pay for private insurance. Health insurance is going to force businesses, small businesses, all of the U.S. to minimize the number of full-time workers they're using and replace them with part-time workers. Something to note is that it's a good indicator that this is coming around, that they're forcing you to get this eugenics care, because what? Maybe they know something that we don't. Either A, the eugenics is going to start taking hold, so they need, quote, health care, or B, they just need to kill off a bunch of people by a certain time. So they're going to force you to get this health care, and eventually you'll be forced to do checkups. In order to get a job, you got to do that. And so I'll leave off with this. Says more than 75% of all jobs in the U.S. today are not good jobs, and things are not looking promising for the future. So it's no wonder that so many families are barely surviving these days. And right now, approximately 77% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, at least some of the time. And 53% of all Americans with a bachelor's degree under the age of 25 were either unemployed or underdeployed during 2011. But we need lots more immigrants, says A. Barton Hinkle. He thinks hard-working newcomers are good for America. So you must listen to Bush, who said that about, what was he speaking on immigrants, as something about they shine his soul or something like that. And it's nothing against immigrants, it's just like, what about the people as citizens here that you force to pay taxes and stuff like that? Well, they can't pay taxes if they don't have jobs. Okay, so let's get illegal immigrants who don't pay taxes. And that's why neocons always act as if they're conservatives and stuff like that, and they play that whole game, and why they're on board with this, because they like cheap labor and they don't like to pay for benefits or anything like that, which is fine and everything, but I'm just tired of hearing that the crappy-ass excuse about, well, there's jobs that Americans don't want. Well, there's Americans that want them, they just can't get them, because they, along with their employer, will go to jail if they pay them below minimum wage and they don't pay their Social Security, Medicare, and all those taxes. Compared with native-born Americans, immigrants are more likely to start a business, more likely to work, and less likely to commit a crime, they say. Taxes eats into 70% of UK families' income. A new study has found that the families in Britain pay some of the highest tax rates in the developed world compared to other nations like Ireland, Canada, and Chile. So, yeah, they steal half your income, but you're rich, right? And then big corporations, they always like to say that they pay taxes, but most of the time that they don't. And they get corporate welfare, which is basically subsidies and tax breaks. So for you living in rich nations, as you're called by Ban Ki-moon, they want you to pay another tax, the carbon tax, to save the planet from spraying of chemtrails and aerosols that modifies the weather. It says here that British households with 2 children and 1 earner are paying around 73% of their income into tax, which is made mostly of income tax. which is really just it's really a tax. How could I put it? It's basically a tax that goes towards the interest of the Federal Reserve System so that you can use your money. Show this to anyone that believes that taxes are too low. It says politicians love to find ways that they can raise revenue without us feeling it. Most people just focus on income tax rates and they forget about the dozens of other ways that they're bleeding us dry. It's really kind of like the death by 1,000 cuts, and of course the middle class gets hit the hardest. The poor are exempt from many taxes. The ultra-wealthy are masters at cheating the system and avoiding taxes, and so the most pain is always felt by those in the middle. Hardworking middle-class families and small businesses all over America are being financially raped by this insidious system. You have building permit taxes, capital gains taxes, cigarette tax, court fine, indirect tax, dog license taxes, driver license fees, federal employment taxes, fishing taxes, food taxes, gasoline taxes, gift taxes, hunting license taxes, inheritance taxes, all kinds of taxes, of course, luxury taxes, liquor taxes, recreational vehicle tax, property tax, toll booth tax, sales tax, self-employment tax, school tax. It says here septic permit taxes, Social Security taxes, a tanning tax, telephone tax, tire tax, utility tax, workers' compensation tax. When you account all these forms of taxation, which they didn't even include all of them, there are some Americans that play by the rules that are sending more than half of their incomes to the government. This is why tax avoidance has become a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States. People are sick and tired of being drained by a system that is way too complicated and way too unfair. I think there was that actor Lovitz, John Lovitz, that was talking about Obama, saying, you know, there's going to be change and pull your weight, and he's like, dude, they took half my taxes last year. And it was basically telling Obama to F off. Another person, I guess, that told the federal government to F off was Stephen Baldwin. Many of you have probably seen this. This is charged with tax evasion, saying that he owes 350,000 clams. And they like to do this where they, you know, Wesley Snipes and stuff like that, where they, you know, and he fled the country and stuff like that. I mean, they really put a lot of pressure on people and push them to the edge. Where they either kill themselves or, you know, they can't pay it. I don't know what else to say, and or they try to flee, and so yeah, I guess they're saying that $350,000 for the year 2008, 2010, so 2 years, $350,000 of taxes, and they like to put these celebrities out there every once in a while, especially towards the end of the year where tax season's coming up, to make you feel as if you got to do your patriotic duty to pay into the Federal Reserve System, pay them for being able to manipulate your currency and stuff like that, and your interest rate, basically your entire economy. And you're supposed to feel good about it because, see, the celebrities, see, they crack down on the celebrities, the big millionaires. But I thought about it, I'm like, well, let's see, if 2 years, $350,000, that's a little under, it's $175,000 per year, so almost $200,000. So that means if they take about half of it, that means he only made about $500,000 a year. And you say, oh, that's it, Darko? And it's like, well, dude, you know, like I said before, I don't hate millionaires, and it's the billionaires and trillionaires that are ruining this world, this society right now, that are bleeding people dry. It's not people that have $500,000 or that have a net operating income of $1 million a year. You know, that's pennies compared to the people that run countries. I mean, the EU isn't the EU. Germany isn't Germany. It's the Rothschilds-owned country. They have their own countries, like Israel, like the United States. They're corporations owned privately. So it says he could face up to 4 years in prison. This is the Baldwin who declared bankruptcy in 2009. Next up, Speaker Boehner hints he could accept higher tax rates. So remember, I'm not going to raise taxes. So he's hinting at accepting higher tax rates. Medicare, and of course they'll say it'll be on the rich. Well, actually, it'll be on those millionaires, like I said, not the super rich, but they'll say the top 1%. I don't know. We'll see, right? We'll see. Medicare emerging as prime target in the fiscal cliff talk. So it's like, blah, rah, you know, why are you even covering this, right? But it's actually pretty interesting what they're going to do about the spending cut. And it's weird because I like to play these games, again, to make you feel guilty, because they call them entitlement programs. Ooh, you entitlements. I noticed that in the Mail Online, they're really big about that. Oh, a pensioner. It's a person that worked their fucking ass off their entire lives and are now finally able to retire and getting something back for paying into it. And they call them pensioners, like they're objects or something like that, like they're parasites. So entitlements, again, something that you paid into. You didn't have any choice. You were forced by gunpoint to pay into this system. So when you get it, ooh, you're entitled. Well, actually, you're entitled to less now, right? So actually, what they're going to do now is they're going to reduce payments. They're going to reduce the payments for hospitals. So they're going to turn you away, like they're already doing UK, euthanizing these, quote, pensioners and elderly to cut savings. So, yeah, basically to cut costs. Nursing homes, they're going to reduce payments for nursing homes, so you just go ahead and die off there. Drug makers and insurers and physicians, which means most of the qualified doctors will leave the country, which they've already been doing en masse. Says here that that they're going to actually raise the Medicare eligibility from 65 to 67, just like how they're making you work longer and harder for less. And in fact, actually in the UK, they were actually saying that people that were retired and pensioners, they could actually work off their pension, so they're still going to have to work possibly to receive their pension that they already paid into. The games that they play, the mind games with people that make them feel guilty. We got 2 more sick stories. I think they're both coming out of the UK. It says it's revealed that rule changes will force the sick to work for free. Tens of thousands of sick and disabled people in Scotland, UK, face being forced onto unpaid work programs under the threat of losing their benefits. And then you have this story, this in England, Tory hatchet man Iain Duncan Smith's weasel-worded letter to a boy who said Atos test killed his dad. So it goes on here, says that the cold reply by the pension secretary told the 13-year-old to visit the job center to find out about his dad's disability appeal. It says here they told him that he was fit to work, and they basically went in there and made him do this test. And it said the boy said the strain of the back-to-work test killed his disabled dad. It goes on and it says that there's a records campaign for a fair system that protects disabled people. After this individual wrote a letter insisting his dad was hounded to death when he was assessed fit for work by Atos, the firm used by Duncan Smith's Department for Work and Pensions. So the guy wrote a letter to the kid, but it says the letter is a machine printed on DW paper with the only sign of humanity, an eligible scrawl, presumably Duncan Smith's signature. There it is right there. Again, more games that they're playing. Proposal to drug test welfare recipients may gain steam in Kansas. Again, sounds practical, just like everything else. Why? It's like, well, let's see. The problem I have with this is that there's a lot of people that may have issues that that don't want to go to the big pharma. They don't want to start popping pills. Well, see, they're not going to test for those types of drugs. They're going to test for things, the most used drug, which is marijuana, which helps treat thousands of ailments, it's known by scientists, and they're going to go after those people. But it's amazing, it's like I always kind of just laugh to myself when I'm in the grocery store and I can see, this the pharmacy in the store, in the supermarket, and I'm like, wow, they could just operate right in the open. They're dealing drugs and they just operate out in the open. Nothing happens. But if you want to buy some pot, you got to go in a back alley in a dark night and stuff like that, in a dimly lit alley. And hope you don't get shaken down by the revenue collectors, the cops. And Kearney student suspended for painting flag on bare chest for school videos. The senior was suspended Thursday after he and 2 friends painted their bare chests to resemble an American flag for school music video. But they said that it had to do with them being bare-chested, and that violated the dress code. It's so funny too, because you see all these young girls that wear these tight-ass clothes and skirts, short skirts, and they're basically dressed like sluts that are about to start scaling the pole at a strip club, but they don't mind that. They're not really leaving much for imagination these days. They're pretty close to just being naked already. High school song policy gets changed. So West Virginia High School will no longer require students to stand during Friday morning pledges and songs. I don't know why they have the picture of this elementary school, but the policy now calls for students to stand or sit silently as the U.S. National Anthem and Pledge of Allegiance and song Lift Every Voice and Sing is played over the school public address system. The biggest thing to look at here is this forcing students to stand for the song which some regard as the African American national anthem. I guess that's Lift Every Voice and Song. Upset at least 2 students and one student's mother. It says Kim Bailey, whose son chose not to stand, was sent to the office several times for his decision, saying, I still think they need to stress the fact that there's only one national anthem. But like I said, you put your children in these re-education camps, you're just asking for trouble. And Mr. says lessons on porn are acceptable Parents of a student that was strip searched are going to sue. Thank you.